Well, good everybody. So we're at it again, and things are on the move. A few more boats across the equator, and yeah, everything seems to be getting a bit organised. So there are some changes. It's not just boring doldrums, but it's part of the course. So anyway, here we are, 4th of April, and I'm going to go straight to the tracker. We'll talk about things at the end of this. It's probably another quick one, but there's not a huge amount happening, but it's still interesting what is going on. So I'll put you on the tracker. There it is there. So then if I come over here, I'm on the tracker. I'll just pull that up to get some more space there. Okay. And you can see everyone's sort of on the move again now. They're all at least heading in the same direction. So that's kind of good. And if we look at the weather, there is absolutely, even right the way up to Gary, there's a gradient going down here where this breeze is sort of, it's not a big breeze, but at least it's happening. So it's probably 5 to 10 knots, generally speaking. Tracker issues. So yeah, so you can see they've all got this general breeze here, and Renaud is certainly looking in a commanding position if we consider the weather as it is now. The others are still moving, so that's good. But let's just see what's going to happen over the next few days. So I'll see if I can find the Galapagos again. There they are. That's a little bit better. So that's the whole fleet. I think that's big enough. We can see what's going on. Christian's actually today. Christian sent me, or his manager did. He's finally got his Starlink up and running. When you buy a Starlink, you get a 50-foot cable, but it's for 240 volt, like a 220 volt cable, and it's quite a thin cable, and it's about 50 feet long because wherever you plug it in, it gives you the latitude to run the aerial wherever you want. And I should keep this story for later, actually. Anyway, but he sent me some. He got his Starlink working. Sent some awesome photos and about 8 little video clips. Jane's going to put the video clips up, and I'll get the photos up after this. I'll try and get them up. Now, they've got some classics there, and I won't talk about it. I will at the end. Anyway, so Gary up the top, he's still moving. 2.8 knots. He sent me a message and saying he's happy. He's committed to go across the top now. Did a 70 nautical mile day. So whilst he's a long way from Renaud, and let's just pick that off just to give you an idea, he is actually 260 miles north of Renaud. Okay. Now, I don't know whether it'll pay dividends, but if he can keep this rolling, and there's some fun currents up here, and then slowly come down, he will absolutely, by the look of it, have caught up with the fleet, but only time will tell. Okay. Christian here, he's obviously committed to go through. We've sort of put a self-imposed restriction on that for the fleet. We don't want anyone to go any closer than 12 nautical miles to any coastline within the Galapagos, and it's about 40 miles across here, so they can easily go through the middle there. So he's planning that, and then I'm not sure about that. Let's answer my own question here. See if it can go between there and there, which is 32. Yeah. So it's getting a bit close here, but he could come down there and then scoot across that way. That's a self-imposed restriction, but there are some quite severe, quite strong management plans for what's effectively an international national park. There's some maritime plans and all the shoreside. You've got to have permits to get in. I think I discussed this. You've got to pay money to come in. You've got to make sure you've got a squeaky clean bottom. That's the boat, not the crew. That too, probably. They're always worried about invasive species, so you have to dive on your boat no later than 40 miles out and all this sort of stuff. So what we don't want to see is a boat come through here and all of a sudden decide, not prepared, all of a sudden they've got to stop for an emergency or something that could be challenged by the rules and regulations. So anyway, so Christian looks like he's coming through here. Not sure about I'll reserve judgment there, but he certainly knows all about what's going on. And Eric sent us, we get regular messages from his manager. He's doing really well. I think he got another video up on Facebook again. So no complaints there. And Kerry's heading down. It's like the flock. So, okay, so Christian doing 1.9 knots, 31 mile day. Not fast, but he's moving. Well, I'll talk about all his messages because he had a lot going on board the boat. 1.8 for Urton, 50 mile day, so that's not too bad. Eric, 44 mile day, 1.2 knots, so still a bit fluky throughout the fleet. The good news is Kerry's doing 2.5 knots at the moment, but he only managed 36 miles in the last 24 hours, so that's costing him dearly there. Jasmine back here, 1.4 knots, 39 mile day. They're all sort of pretty much holding their own. Josh trailing Jasmine, 2.6 knots, 33 mile day. Jacob, 0.8 of a knot, 34 mile day, at least in the right direction. Adam doing 1.6, 26 mile day. And Dan Turk, 2.1, 40 mile day. Daniel's definitely off the pace against Renaud, but he still did a 51 nautical mile day. He looked back a few days and they were on top of each other. And then that position was taken over by Peeler, who was then right next to him not that long ago, 2 or 3 days ago. She's now doing 3 knots, so she's under the influence of this stronger breeze. 53 mile day, that's pretty good. They're on a roll. And Renaud here, a bit of a zigzag, but he's still heading south. He's done a 62 mile day, and he's making 2.7 knots. So absolutely in a commanding position, heading down to it. Even Mark's doing 2.7, but he's on the way south. He wants to find the breeze. He's got a Starlink as well, so they can see what's going on. Anyway, we'll come back and let's do the weather. Before we do the weather, we'll just have a peek at the currents, see what's going on. So Renaud's still got a bit of a head current there. So if he's doing 2.7, he would have lost a knot there. Gary's still got a bit of a boost that's going across. Most of the fleet here, the middle fleet, have got no real current. Josh is he's got a little head current, but nothing to speak about. Peeler's got a bit. She's going to go through there. I should make this a bit clearer. Push it up there a bit. Get this out of the way so you can see Renaud's bucking it a bit there. These guys coming across through here are going to get a mixed bag. Gary might get some more help there, and then come down here. Who knows what? So I'll slide that forward. Just going to get my other keyboard. We'll just see what's happening with the current. I have to hit that, boom, to slide it forward. So by tomorrow, Renaud's current's starting to die down a bit. Gary's is starting to pick up, but it's going northwest. The others have got a pretty bland stuff, nothing of any consequence. So, but Renaud's in the clear. He's out of the current. Peeler's going to have a bit running through. And maybe Holiday Dan and Dan Turk could get a bit of that as well. But that's a couple of days now. That's 2 days away. You can see what's going to happen here with Gary. That could be kind of cool. So that's all looking very interesting. No big surprises, but we'll go over to the wind now and have a look at what's going on there. So very light winds, as we discussed. I'll get rid of that one, and then I'll push it forward 2 days, so we can, or a couple of days anyway. Do I want to make it a bit smaller? No. Leave it up on the big bits there. So we're on wind. I'm going to push it through now. I'll get rid of that. Put that one there. Okay, so this is in about 12 hours. It's generally going a little bit lighter for everyone over the next 12 hours. And then by tomorrow, it's back again. So that's kind of interesting. That means Renaud is going to hold in that. So I'll push it. I'll do a distance check in a minute for 12 and 24, 48 hours. Then it's going to go quiet for this mid-fleet here. This mid-fleet that's coming through here on the 6th, it's going to go very quiet. And at that stage, Renaud will be down here. We'll just push it through a bit more. Yeah, Renaud's in the clear now. So there it is. That's near enough 2 days away. So in 2 days, let's say he does 50, so it's 100 miles. So Renaud's going to be about down here. So he's into it. So in 2 days, Renaud will be running along the top of the trade winds. this is it here. He'll probably dip a bit further south. This is 5 degrees. That's about where we said they were going to settle to. So he'll probably keep going south, just sacrifice a bit of west to keep going down, and then he's going to be sitting in the trades. He's the first one away. It's going to be very challenging for anyone else to catch him at that point. Peeler's close behind, but let's wait and see. So definitely interesting few days. Okay, that's probably all I need to show you there, although I'll come back and see once again, just to explain the big picture. There's the trade wind belt, and on 2 days, that's where it's going to be sitting. We'll go through to 3 days, see if it disappears. It's getting a bit softer further to the west, but where they'll be, it's quite strong. It's actually coming up there. That's very interesting. 6, 7, 8. That's only 4 days away. So the mid-fleet will pick it up there and get a bit of a boost to come down. So they're not going to be left totally behind. Not sure what's going to happen to Gary. That's at the 8th. At that point, he'll be trying to come down here. So not too bad. Anyway, Popeye is still there. Let's just better check that. I said that, but the boat's pointing a different direction. Maybe they've just left. That's interesting. Better push this up, just double check. They haven't sent me a message. I'm supposed to get a no, they haven't left. They're just pointing in the right direction. Well, I don't think they've left. They've left. Ooh. Oh no, sorry. That's just the isthmus. No, they're still there. They're still there. I thought they'd departed there, but it's not. Okay, so that's all we need to know from there. So you've got the big picture. I'll come back here and just tell you what was going on. Okay, so we got a lot of information from Christian. I hadn't heard about the big collision, but anyway, they're all seeing logs and bits and pieces, which I warned them about at the briefing. I said, look, there's a history of all this stuff floating around, so just be aware. I wasn't too perturbed because the boats are quite small. They've got the central keel. They're not going super fast, but I've read, 3 or 4 accounts of boats being damaged, hitting stuff, all leaving Panama. The one was a classic. It was about a 50-foot catamaran, ran straight up one of those trees and ripped off one rudder and bent the other one. Other one was a monohull, similar scenario, running into the tree. So anyway, pretty much every entrance gone past trees and logs and rubbish and all that sort of stuff. It just seems to be something about the currents there and so on. But anyway, Christian, just after he towed Canadan away from the currents and the rocks, which was a whole subject in itself, shortly after that, he got going again and was sailing quite solidly, and he whacked a pole and he damaged the keel. And when I say damaged it, which opened a can of worms, because he sent photos and it looks very clearly that there is filler on the keel. It's not supposed to be. So we'll talk about that later. But anyway, there's 2 or 3 big chinks in what he calls the anti-fouling on the keel. But it's actually filler on the keel, which is an interesting point. Anyway, and some marks on the hull and so on. So he must have hit something quite solidly. So then his other issue was he couldn't get his Starlink up because he didn't have a 12-volt cable. So he cut the 240-volt cable by the look of it and tried to hardwire it into the 12-volt. But it's a thin cable, a very thin cable that is meant for 240-volt and a long 50-foot line, so you can plug it in and move the aerial so you get a clear sky. So you can't run 12-volt down that thin cable because it just won't take the power, and that was his problem. So he then bodged something up and got it working. And then he dumped all these video clips, which are fantastic, and some great photos. He got one photo there with 4 of the blue-footed boobies on his bowsprit. They're all sitting there together, while he's sailing along. It's quite cool. And then, I don't know whether he knows it, but he was obviously in the water swimming, okay, because he's taking pictures of his boat while it's becalmed. And one of the this is a folklore rumour, but I've been involved with sharks for a long, long time. And anyway, he's got a shot there that's taken in the water with his GoPro. And I don't know whether he was in the water at the time. It's a whole group of, probably in the photograph, you're looking at probably 20 what's called oceanic white-tip sharks. Now, oceanic white-tip sharks, for whatever reason, have the most ferocious reputation of mid-ocean mischief. Let's call it that way. They are highly respected. If you're in the water and you see an oceanic white tip, you get out. And then he's got a close-up of an oceanic white tip, which ironically has a black tip over the top of the white tip, but that's the shark. As soon as I saw it, I thought, holy dooly, because I've done a lot of similar stuff. When you're in the ocean, you just jump over the side and it's flat calm. But after, I did it a lot in the bounty boat trip, but never again without goggles, because later on we were doing some stuff across the Pacific, and jeepers, we had some run-ins with, what I call deep blue sharks when they're coming at you, and all the way from the bottom. They just beeline straight to you because you're the most interesting thing around, because there's nothing else there. It was me and Mark, and we were kicking them off and doing all sorts. So I'm intrigued to see the story behind the photos of the sharks. So that's another one. And he's got some other great photos. So I'll try and do a photo gallery anyway with this one. But as a word, if all the other entrants if you're watching this, just if you're going to go for a swim in the calm, it's my recommendation you put your mask on and just every now and then just have a look around, because I've never seen a photo mid-ocean of a group of oceanic white tips the size that Christian has got. It's very unusual. You see, you get random ones, this, that, and the other, but I've never seen a photo. I've never seen anyone take a photo of a group of oceanic white tips like that. But that's what they're renowned for. During the war, they were a big problem. Survivors in the water, and a whole bunch of them would turn up and create havoc. So anyway, that was a little sideline, but great photos. So thank you, Christian, if you're watching this, and great videos. Jane's going to put the videos together. She just arrived in China, and she'll head to tail some of them and bits and pieces. But there's really interesting stuff. So that's kind of cool. The Starlink is offering lots of opportunities. And another interesting thing, you might have seen the post from Kerry, just talking about his doldrums experience. And it just occurred to me two things. One is that usually the doldrums that we all associate with are in the Atlantic, and it's really ugly. If you've ever been through there, it's like really hard work, super hot, massive amount of thunderstorms, big ones, that suck in the breeze, and really it's very much a struggle to get through the doldrums both ways. These ones, this is the first time I've actually followed someone through the Pacific doldrums there, which everyone knows about, and they seem to be a lot more pleasant. Like it really does look. It's obviously got the scary moments with the lightning and thunderstorms and probably squalls and stuff, but generally speaking, it's usually flat calm, and it's looking like it's nice time to contemplate the meaning of life and all this sort of stuff. No one's really complaining so much. It seems like a very nice experience. So, and Kerry personifies that whole thing where he's a bit philosophical. He's easy with wise words and so on. So it was good to see him having a good time in the doldrums. Anyway, enough of all that. I have got also Eric, I think I said, Brenda, his manager, has sent me little updates and stuff, but he's having a good time as well, and I saw he put a video on. So everyone's doing well. I think that's about it. So I'm going to go straight to questions, if there's any questions here. And somehow we haven't had the questions coming up on the screen. I don't know how, because it just stopped. Anyway. G'day, Adrian. G'day, Christine. Rex, sounds and video seems to... That got me worried then, because Jane's not... Usually I get Jane monitoring it, but she's not here. She's in China now, eating amazing Chinese food with her parents. Okay, so it's back again. I don't know what that was. Hello from Cork. G'day. Jane is watching. Alma Class Globe 580. That's Jane. Okay. So... all right, that's it. Not a lot of questions, which is fine. That's going to happen more and more. Oh, comment from Adrian. Hi, Don. Why is it up there and not food? By the time they get into trade winds, it's going to be pretty much sausage machine. Look at that. Me saying there's no questions. That's because there's pretty nothing up there. But I'll get to you, Adrian. When it gets into the trade winds, we may chop the updates back to every couple of days, because it'll be like a sausage machine. The wind will always blow from the east-southeast or southeast. About the same strength every day, and it'll be a drag race. And the way boats will change positions will be when someone makes a mistake. If they make a mistake and go a bit slower, or they make a mistake and get, say, bugger that and have 6 hours break or something, that's when boat positions will change. But it'll be very hard for them to try and pass boats and all that sort of thing when it's consistent weather every day. So, and they'll be watching the trades and watching the currents and things like that. So I'll give it another week, and by then they'll be settled in and blasting towards the Marquises. So that's kind of good. Had some interesting fun. I might have mentioned it yesterday or not, but I'm talking now with the guys at in Durban in South Africa about the passage around the corner. We've all been as a fleet and an organisation and an event. The people, all the entrants involved. We all know that going around Cape Town is getting around to Cape Town and around the tip of South Africa is the single most biggest challenge, weather challenge, because you're in the Southern Ocean, of the whole event. And I'm happy to say that the guys in Durban, which we'll talk about more as we get closer, are absolutely on the ball. They're excited about having us arrive and be part of what's going on, because the boats will actually go from Port Louis in Mauritius to Durban, which is a little bit traditional, but it can cut up bad towards the end. But anyway, once they're in Durban, then it'll be a case of they get 15 days of stopovers or something, so they can pick their weather, because you've got the Agulhas current we spoke about the other day, and you've got wind, and if you get you get a 2-3 knot current going against the wind, you've got a big problem, and it's very nasty. So they're all on board. They're going to be helping each of the entrants make a go no go decision when they're hopping around the coast, and with Starlink they'll be able to keep up and still keep offering that advice and opinion all the way around to Cape Town, which is important, because local knowledge is everything. I only understand the basics of that place, and that was quite exciting. Not to mention all the hospitality things like discounts on food and drink, and having people there that are excited to see the fleet come in. So it seems a long way away, but it'll we'll move across the Pacific pretty quick, and before we know it, we'll be in Fiji and starting them off from there. So anyway, one step at a time. So got a couple of other late bits here. G'day, Joey. Just typed the build question, but it was too long for this chat. Where on the website do I ask? If it's a build question, you could go to the Class Globe 580 Builders group. There's a Builders Facebook page. It's got about 4,000 or 5,000 followers, and that's where they all the questions on building go. And you can answer all the bits. Or if you put your question up now, and if nothing else, I'll see it for the next one and answer it next tracker update, or I'll answer it in the comments if I miss it. So you just put your question up now, Adrian, and I'll try and answer it anyway. There's a couple more here, but if I shut down, I'll give you a written reply. Okay. Hey, Captain Joey, John, morning. Missed the start of the live. Yeah, it's a random. It helps us to be random starts. I can't guarantee a set time every day, and so on. So thanks for your patience with that. Watch the replay. Cleverton just logged in. Not sure what Don said, but to my amateur eye, it looks like Gary might get a fair bit ahead of the field with a bit of luck. Yeah, that's exactly right. If he's got a bit of luck, it'll be. I don't know whether he'll get that much luck, but he won't. He's got nothing to lose. He's already up there for whatever reason, and it's worth a try, and it could be okay. You never know. Kerry's been doing pretty well as well, considering he was 12 hours behind the fleet, and he could still cut the corner a little bit, but it's all weather dependent now. And when the interesting thing about Kerry is when he gets in the trade, you watch. He's got a fast boat. He sails it with a lot of passion and determination. So trade wind to trade wind, going to be interesting. Renaud will be looking over his shoulder all the time, I think. And Peeler's right there as well. So, don't worry, it's not going to get boring. It's a bit boring that, with all due respect to Renaud, a bit boring that Renaud's in the front again, but that's a benchmark now. People are out to catch him. So it's still a long way around the world. So that's cool. Why did 3 boats go backwards yesterday? They had no wind, and the current just basically took them back. The current, if you're sitting there doing half a knot and the current's 2 knots, it's going to send you wherever the current goes. So that was what was going on there. But it looked kind of funny, eh? It looked like we've got here now. So is Christian stopping in the Galapagos? It better not be, because he hasn't said anything. But I don't think he is. He's planning to go straight through. By the look of all his videos and everything, by the look of all his videos, he's quite happy. He's quite into it, doing all sorts of things. So, Adrian, I think I got your question. I'm going to build in the back garden, so it will be craned over the house and will not be going back in. Can I weigh it later in the build? We like to see the weight of the plywood structure. So when you finish the whole deck and got most of the bits in there, so it's sealed up as a structure, we like to get a weight there. And so you certainly can't use the crane to weigh your boat. That's a no-no. It's got to be like a certified instrument scales, right? So a crane weight, if it's like a 12-ton crane, there's so much latitude there because your boat will come in at about 480 kilos or something with the structure. So you need to use a set of scales which are not certified, but they've checked with something, to make sure they're reasonable. But don't figure on using the crane scales because they're just completely inaccurate. They wouldn't pass. And you can weigh it different ways. You can jack up your building frame as long as you've got a solid base and put a couple of scale in every corner, 4 smaller ones every corner. So it's a bit of creative thinking, and there's a lot. Everyone's weighed their boats, so you can, if you're building, you want to be on the builder's Facebook site because you can ask questions there, and everyone's done it before. It's fantastic, and everyone loves giving their advice and opinion because they just built their boat, all that sort of stuff. So I would strongly recommend you go there as well. Did Jasmine take any oars along? Is paddling allowed? No, paddling's not allowed unless it's an emergency. They have to have the means to paddle, okay, either with a set of row locks on the boat or whatever, but we don't allow normal rowing in calm conditions because if we did, people would gear up for that, and then you'd have a bike frame on there with a propeller and stuff like that, and it'd be manual power. It sounds corny because we allow electric motors, but we didn't want people to start getting their boats geared up for paddling. We allow that in the GGR because they're bigger boats, 32 to 36 feet. Mark Slats, who's a world record holder for rowing oceans and so on, took these massive oars and set up to row his boat. I don't think he ever did. He might have a few times in the doldrums and things like that, but it's a bit tough to think you can row a displacement boat around the world, but at times it could have been quite valuable. So you can in the GGR, but you can't in the 580 because you really could row the 580. It's not a big boat, but we don't want to go that track. Okay, that's it. I'm ready to sign off. So we will. Oh, there's another one. 4-time bathroom scales, Lol. Thanks for the reply. Well, yeah, you could because you just check the bathroom scales. They're usually pretty accurate, and you can have big buggers. I'm actually holding under 90 kilos at the moment, so most bathroom scales will probably go to 150 kilos. So yeah, you can use 4 bathroom scales and give them away as presents later. Okay, I'm out of here. See you later. Boom, boom.
Witness history in the making. The McIntyre Mini Globe Race 2025. Small boat, huge adventure.